Get off this plane right now. That's what she said to me loud enough to turn every head in the cabin like she'd pulled a fire alarm just to watch me burn. Before I tell you anything else, answer me this. If it were you with your kid's hand shaking in yours, what would you have done? My name is Aduni, and I'm the woman they dragged down an aisle like I didn't belong in the sky. Lagos to Abuja, economy seats. Nothing fancy. My dress was clean but tired, the kind you wash by hand and stitch again when the seams quit on you. My shoes glued that morning, my hair pulled back because, well, salon money was going to medication. Chiamaka is 6, bright eyes, shy, smile a hole in her heart. We've been fighting since she was 2. Our appointment at National Hospital was set for 9 a.m. the next morning. A slot, you wait months for a slot you don't miss, not if you love your child, and you've learned to count her breaths when the room goes too quiet. Tickets. The woman in the aisle laughed, gold jewelry catching the overhead lights. Someone like you. You probably stole them. People didn't look at me so much as at the idea of me. Poor out of place may be dangerous, if their bags were any clue, because suddenly a lot of zippers were shut, a lot of purses tucked tighter. You know what I mean. I kept my voice steady, tried to tuck the heat in my face back where it belonged. Madam, please, we have seats, we just need to pass. It didn't matter. Another voice from a few rows back, a man in a starched agbada with a belly that meant business. Throw them off, we don't need trouble. Trouble. That word sticks to the poor like lint. I did the only thing I could think to do. I told the truth. My daughter has a heart condition. Our appointment is tomorrow. We can't miss this flight. For 1 second, the whole plane went quiet like the cabin itself took a breath for me. Then the woman snapped her fingers and said the word that can make anyone small. Security. 2 officers came in with the look of men called to deal with something beneath them. The flight attendant had that thin smile people wear when they hate what they're about to say. Ma'am, the other passengers are uncomfortable. You're causing a disturbance. Me, the disturbance. My little girl, the contagion. Please, I said, and that was when my voice broke. She's sick. I didn't finish because they took my arms, hands like clamps. My daughter cried out, "Mommy," and someone slipped her from my side like she was luggage. We were gone. Just like that. Down the jet bridge into the terminal, the door closing behind us with the kind of final sound that makes you think about all the doors that closed before it. I watched our plane push back from the gate, tiny faces in the windows, pretending they didn't see us or pretending we didn't matter. If it were you, what would you have done? I found a plastic bench, sat with my girl curled into me, counted her breaths, and cried the way mothers cry in public. Quietly, without showing your teeth. My phone buzzed. My sister. Did you make it? I put the phone away. How do you text humiliation? How do you text the feeling of being trash in a place built for travelers? Then a shadow. Excuse me, a voice said, soft enough to sit beside grief. A pilot uniform, crisp name tag, that read, Captain Ifonyi, kind eyes that didn't flinch. I heard what happened. He put an envelope in my hand. Cash. Enough for 2 new tickets on the next flight. I wanted to hand it back. Pride is a reflex, even when it's starving. He shook his head. Please. What happened to you was disgraceful. Get your daughter to Abuja. Kindness is heavier than you think when you haven't carried it in a while. I thanked him, booked the next flight 3 hours later. 3 hours to sit with the ache and not drown in it. 3 hours to decide I was done being the kind of woman people could do this to. While Chiamaka slept, my phone rang. Unknown number. Is this Miss Adunai? My name is Barrister Folake Williams. I'm in Abuja. I went still. I represent a firm that's crossed paths with your ex-husband, she said, voice like a satin-gloved hammer. I also heard about your boarding incident. One of the women involved is Blessing Wosu. She's connected to your ex. The rich woman on the plane wasn't random. She knew exactly who I was. Why I asked, though my stomach had already started the answer. Because you have an appointment that could put medical neglect on the record, Folake said. And some men will set the sky on fire to hide a paper trail. It wasn't just about a seat on a plane. It never is. What do you want me to do? I asked. Make the appointment, she said. Then meet me. If I'm right, this is bigger than a family argument. And we're going to fight back. Stick around, because what happened next will blow your mind. We landed under a clean Abuja sky that felt like a reset. The guest house room was small and safe, 2 beds, a window view of a city pretending to be calm. At 9 a.m., National Hospital. Fluorescent hallways, the hush of serious places. Dr. Emma Okonkwo, a man with gentle hands and a face that does not lie to mothers, examined. My daughter scrolled through the records I carried like a Bible, flipped to a page that made his eyebrows knot. Mrs. Adani, he began, careful, your daughter's condition was improving until there's a gap in treatment. After that gap, the deterioration is consistent with someone who did not receive medication as prescribed. I sat because the floor moved. During that time I said, and my voice didn't sound like mine, she was with her father. He had temporary custody while the court sorted the divorce. Dr. Emma nodded, pointed to another note. There are mentions here of seizures and additional meds, but we don't see evidence of seizures in the recent tests, and you've never witnessed any, correct? Never, I said, feeling something old and heavy slide off my shoulders and crash. I am obligated to report this as medical neglect, he said. I will write a formal report for the court. The good news is we can stabilize her until surgery. She will need it, but it is not immediate. Good news and a blade in the same breath. I kissed my daughter's hair. She was coloring a butterfly, which felt like the universe trying to be poetic. Afternoon, Folake's office, a glass box overlooking Abuja like a hawk. She had files waiting, knives disguised as paper. The EFCC has been investigating Chaike for months, she said. Money laundering, fraud, tax evasion. But this is the part that made me sit down. She slid a document toward me. A life insurance policy. 50 million naira if Chiamaka dies from her condition within 2 years. He listed himself as beneficiary, she said, voice flat. And before you ask, yes, we found a DNA test he ordered 2 years ago that proves he is the father. He knew. He lied anyway. Yeah, that happened. It was like watching a magician reveal the trick and realizing the trick was cruelty. The plan lodged Dr. Emma's report with the court, cooperate with the EFCC, and step into the light so they could not shut the door on me in the dark. That night, a call from Agent Okonkwo at the EFCC changed the timeline. We're moving now, he said. Intelligence suggests your ex is shifting evidence tonight. He asked for the layout of the house I used to call home. The safe behind the painting of Lagos Lagoon in the study, the basement office he swore was private, the wall of locked cabinets, the server rack he told me was inventory. I told him everything. The raid hit the news before midnight. EFCC vans, men in tactical vests, reporters clustering like birds. They took him out in cuffs. He looked at a camera, and I swear for a second, his eyes found the lens like it was me. Outside, I heard cheers through the TV. Inside, I slept. Mourning the press conference, because the only thing more powerful than a secret is a story told with details. Lights, cameras, questions loading like bullets. Folake introduced me, then stepped aside. I told them everything, not like a speech, like a late-night kitchen table confession. The affairs and the locks changed while I was at a doctor's appointment. The rich woman on the plane, who played God with a seat map, the bottles that came back empty, the policy that put a price tag on my baby's life. "Do you think that's fair?" I asked, and for a second, the room forgot to breathe. After that, the questions flew. I answered. The hashtags started. Justice for a dunny jumped walls I didn't know could be jumped. That evening, a knock. Security said a pilot was here. Captain Afoni, again, uniform, neat eyes, tired like he hadn't slept. I did some checking, he said, sitting on the edge of the guest house chair, like a man with news he didn't want to carry. Blessing made calls before takeoff. To your ex, to airport security, to the airline's head of operations. And your ex's brother. He was on that flight 3 rows behind you. It wasn't a coincidence. It was a plan. The kind that looks like classism on the surface and feels like conspiracy when you crack it open. I had a sister, he said, then voice catching. Her husband broke her down, and she didn't make it. I can't let that happen again. For a moment, I didn't feel like a victim. I felt like an army. The preliminary hearing came fast, because sometimes when you push, the machine actually moves. The courthouse was a storm of cameras and women holding signs. They brought Chaiki in wearing orange and handcuffs, arrogance chipping off him in flakes. The judge, clear eyes, steady voice, asked me to speak on the child endangerment charge. I told the court about empty bottles and gray skin, about a mother counting breaths in the dark, about a father who stopped medication and called it a strategy. I told them about the insurance policy waiting like a trap door. Bail denied, the judge said. Expedited trial. I sat down, my legs, finally mine. Trials are long. Not dramatic, not neat. But the pieces add up when you've got enough of them. EFCC put bank records on the screen until numbers started to mean faces. They read texts between Chaike and Blessing about hiding assets. They held up the passenger manifest with Samuel's name in black and white. The captain testified about calls made to grease the removal. Dr. Emma walked the jury through what neglect looks like in lab results. The defense tried their best to sell misunderstood businessman, overreacting, ex-concerned father. The jury didn't buy it. Guilty on all counts. 35 years. Blessing 15. Samuel 5. Outside, people cheered like something bigger than my story was cracking open. Inside, I felt my shoulders lower like I'd been carrying a suitcase someone finally offered to take for a minute. Do you think that's justice or just a good start? Here's the part nobody tells you. After the headline, life doesn't roll credits. It keeps going. The EFCC froze accounts and Folake filed claims for back child support and the marital assets he hid. Not a fortune, but honest, and honest money tastes different. Months later, Dr. Emma performed Chiamaka's surgery. It went beautifully. She ran for the first time without stopping to catch air, and I stood there crying like a fool in a park because the sound of her laughing felt like a choir. My parents, who had believed his lies and kept their distance out of shame and fear, called after the press conference and said, "We were wrong," I said, "I know." We moved into their guest house in Ibadan while I took business classes and learned how to build something with my own hands. With Captain Afoni and a few women I met along the way, we started a support group, Rising Phoenix, a room where women say the thing out loud and watch it lose power. It grew faster than we expected. Turns out, when one person names the storm, everyone else brings a map. You want a twist at the end. Here's one. A few weeks after the sentencing, my phone rang with a jail number. I almost didn't answer, but I did. His voice was smaller than I remembered. I never meant for it to go this far, he said. People were pressuring me. I still love you. I looked at my daughter asleep on the couch, coloring book fallen open on a page of bright wings. I loved the man I thought you were, I said. But I'm in love with the truth now. I hung up. And that silence after the click, that was the sound of a chapter closing without apology. One more scene because life is messy and a little cinematic when it wants to be. I ran into Blessing at the hospital pharmacy months later. No gold, no audience, just a woman shrinking inside her coat. She avoided my eyes. I said, "Ma'am, I hope your day is kind." She nodded, and that was it. Regret isn't always loud. Sometimes it's a person who can't look at you under fluorescent lights. So here's where I leave you, but not without a question that might keep you up tonight. When a stranger in a nice outfit says you don't belong, do you choose comfort and silence? Or do you step into the aisle and say, "This is my seat"? When the system protects reputation over children, do you shrug because that's how it's always been? Or do you file the report, give the statement, show up at court, even when your hands shake? When kindness costs you, do you pay it anyway, like a pilot with an envelope and a backbone? Some of you are thinking revenge would have tasted sweeter. I get that. A part of me wanted revenge that night on the bench, tasting metal and humiliation. But here's the controversial bit I want you to argue with in the comments if you need to. Revenge gives you a moment. Justice gives you a future. And futures are what kids deserve, what we all deserve when we've been knocked down and told to stay there. If you disagree, say it. If you've lived through something like this and you chose a different path, tell us why. Do you think that's fair? Stick around in your own story. Don't let anyone throw you off the plane you bought tickets to board. And if they do find your captain, find your doctor, find your barrister, find your people, then become that person for someone else. That's how this changes. If this hit something tender, drop a comment telling me where you're watching from and what part stayed with you. If you think I got justice wrong or right, argue with me respectfully, loudly. Share your own story or the story you can't stop thinking about, so this community can show up for you like people showed up for us. Like, subscribe, hit the bell, so the next time somebody says you don't belong, you'll remember my voice saying, "Take your seat. We're wheels up."